Namaste, aloha, welcome to the Bhagavad Gita as it is class. My name is Janapati Das. Please accept my respects, everyone. Let me offer my obeisances to my spiritual master, Jagadguru, Siddhaswarapananda Paramahamsa Srila Prabhupada, and to His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. We are reading the verses and the purports in chapter 18, entitled Conclusion, the Perfection of Renunciation. So please join along while we start off with some kirtan. Our spiritual master, Jagadguru, has said that the greatest thing that a devotee of Krishna can give to his spiritual master is the hearing and chanting of Krishna's names. There's nothing greater materially that anyone can give him. So it is the highest perfection of renunciation and self-realization, and can bring a person to Krishna. So we will chant. Namo Siddha Swarupananda Paramahamsa Namane Gora Karuna Swarupaya Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Priya Radha Garirada Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Haribo, Nitako, Nitako, Haribo. 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 Haribo, Nitako, Nitako, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Haribo Namo Siddha Swarupananda Paramahamsa Namine Gorakaruna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Prasthayate Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, once again, we are continuing with the chapter 18, conclusion, the perfection of renunciation. And we have been reading about work. In the Vedic system, there is the social aspect and the economic, I guess you could say economic or work aspect of the Varnashram system. The Varnashram system, Varna is the type of work that somebody does in their life, whether it's Brahmana, or educator, teacher, Kshatriya administrator, warrior, right, leader, general leader, Vaishya, mercantile, businessman, agriculturalist, and the Shudra, the laborer. So you would be born into particular propensities and particular modes. You would have a particular work in society that you would do in your life, and that would be your dharma, that would be your duty. And the ashram part, of course, is the social aspect of it, where we have a student life, married life, retired life, and renunciate life. And the reason we bring this up is because, most specifically, that Krishna is stating that it's better to do one's own work, even if it's done imperfectly, rather than to do other person's duty. Prescribed duties, according to one's nature, are never affected by sinful reactions if they're done for Krishna. And so, text 48, Sahajam karma kanteya sadoshamapi na tayajat Savaramba Hidelshena Dome Agnir Ivavrita Sahajam, born simultaneously. Karma, work. Kaunteo, son of Kunti, saw dosham, with fault. Api, although na never, tajayat, to be given up. Sarva arambaha, any venture. He is certainly doshena, with fault. Dumena, with smoke. Agni, fire. Eva, as avricha, covered. Translation, text 48. Every endeavor is covered by some sort of fault, just as fire is covered by smoke. Therefore, one should not give up the work which is born of his nature, O son of Kunti, even if such work is full of fault. So, by nature, the living entity in the conditioned state is not perfect, is prone to make mistakes. That's just the way it is. And so even the work we do may not necessarily be perfect. In fact, only Krishna is perfect. Really, trying to be perfect, whatever that means, perfect. That we should aim for perfection in what we do, but we shouldn't expect that we are, or think that we are ever really perfect. Purport: in conditioned life, all work is contaminated by the material modes of nature. Even if one is a Brahmana, he has to perform sacrifices in which animal killing is necessary. Similarly, a Kshatriya, however pious he may be, has to fight enemies. He cannot avoid it. Similarly, a merchant, however pious he may be, must sometimes hide his profit to stay in business, or he may sometimes have to do business on the black market. These things are necessary. One cannot avoid them. Similarly, even though a man is a Shudra serving a bad master, he has to carry out the order of the master, even though it should not be done. Despite these flaws, one should continue to carry out his prescribed duties, for they are born out of his own nature. So when we say nature, of course, we're talking about, from the material nature. We are born into the particular world with particular karmic reactions and tendencies, and that is, natural. A very nice example is given herein. Although fire is pure, there is smoke. Yet smoke does not make the fire impure, any more than the river that has pollutants in it, in its essence, is pure water, right? Or the air in its pure essence, before it's polluted, the pollutants into the air is pure. And milk is pure. And even if you add an agent of lemon or tamarind or something, and it will start to curdle, the essence of it is still milk. It's still pure milk, under the influence of some other agent. If one prefers to give up the work of a Kshatriya and take up the occupation of a Brahmana, he is not assured that in the occupation of a Brahmana there are no unpleasant duties. So Krishna was making that point to Arjuna, that, you think it's just, oh, this is nice, I'll just go off to the forest and be a yogi in the beautiful forest, but you got like bugs biting you, mosquitoes, and you have wild animals you have to deal with, and being cold at night, and so there's still unpleasant duties of situations that we have to deal with in our duties. One may then conclude that in the material world, no one could be completely free from the contamination of material nature. This example of fire and smoke is very appropriate in this connection. When in wintertime one takes a stone from the fire, sometimes smoke disturbs the eyes and other parts of the body, but still one must make use of the fire despite disturbing conditions. Similarly, one should not give up his natural occupation because there are some disturbing elements. Rather, one should be determined to serve the Supreme Lord by his occupational duty in Krishna consciousness. In Krishna consciousness, there you go. Do your duty in Krishna consciousness. That's the point. That is the perfectional point. And then any austerities one does in the service of their spiritual master in Krishna is considered a great boon, benediction upon the living entity. Not that we seek out the austerities, but because we know that there's going to be austerities by the nature of the material world. That is a perfectional point. When a particular type of occupation is performed for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord, all the defects in that particular occupation are purified. When the results of the work are purified when connected with devotional service, one becomes perfect in seeing the self within, and that is self-realization. Text 49. Ashakta buddhi savarta jitatma vigata shipraha Naishkarmya Siddhim Paramam Sanyasenadi Gachati. Ashakta Buddhi, unattached intelligence. Savatra everywhere. Jiva Jita Atma, control of the mind. Vigata Spriha, without material desires. Nashkarmya Siddhim, perfection of non-reaction. Paramam Supreme, Sanyasena, by the renounced order of life. Adi Gachati, attains. Translation, text 49. When one can obtain the results of renunciation simply by self-control and by becoming unattached to material things and disregarding material enjoyments, that is the highest perfectional stage of renunciation. Purport. Real renunciation means that one should always think himself part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, he has no right to enjoy the results of his work. Since he is part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, the results of his work must be enjoyed by the Supreme Lord. This is actually Krishna consciousness. The person acting in Krishna consciousness is really a sannyasi, one in the renounced order of life. So here we have it right there. Originally sannyasi was a stage in life, but the real sannyasi is a person who can give up everything comfortable in the service of Krishna. Renounced completely, in complete service to Krishna, not attached completely to the material way of life. It's by such mentality one is satisfied because he is actually acting for the Supreme. Thus he is not attached to anything material. He becomes accustomed to not taking pleasure in anything beyond the transcendental happiness derived from the service of the Lord. A sannyasi is supposed to be free from the reactions of his past activities, but a person who is in Krishna consciousness automatically attains this perfection, siddhim, right, without even accepting the so-called order of renunciation. This state of mind is called the Yoga Rudra, or the perfectional stage of yoga. Excuse me. As confirmed in the 3rd chapter, Yashtavatma Ratir Evaschayat. One who is satisfied in himself has no fear of any kind of reaction from his activity. Text 50. Siddhim prapto yata brahma tatab noti nibodame sama shane naiva kanteya nishta gananashya ya para. Siddhim, perfection. Prapta, achieving. Yata, as. Brahma, the Supreme. Tata, so. Apnoti, achieves. Niboda, try to understand. Me, from me. Samasheda, summarily. Eva, certainly. Kanteya, O son of Kunti. Nishta, stage. Gananashya, of knowledge. Ya, which. Para, transcendental. O son of Kunti, learn from me in brief how one can attain to the supreme perfectional stage Brahman by acting in the way which I shall now summarize. Purport, text 50. The Lord describes for Arjuna how one can achieve the highest perfectional stage simply by being engaged in his occupational duty. Performing that duty for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one attains the supreme stage of Brahman simply by renouncing the result of his work for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord. That is the process of self-realization. Actual perfection of knowledge is in attaining pure Krishna consciousness that is described in the following verses. Text 50 to 51. Here we go. Bujya vishuddhaya yukto dirt yatmanam niyamya cha sabdadin vishayams tayaktva lagat vishad viryudashya cha vivikta sevi lagvashi yatipat kaya manasaha dhyana yoga paro nicham viragyam samud prashrityaha ahankaram balam darpam kamam krodam graham vimuchyam nirmaha santo brahma bhuyaya kalpate. Bujya, by the intelligence. Vishuddhaya, fully purified. Yuktaha, such engagement. Dutta, determination. Atmanam, self. Niyamya, regulated. Cha, also. Shabdadin, the sense objects such as sound, etc. Vishayan, sense objects. Tyaktva, giving up. Raga, attachments. Deveshal, hatred. Yudasha, having laid aside. Cha, also. Vivikta Shevi, living in a secluded place. Lagu Ashi, eating a small quantity. Yatayavak, control of speech. Kaya, body. Mana Shaha, control of the mind. Dhyana Yoga Paraha, always absorbed in trance. So Dhyana Yoga. Nityam, 24 hours a day. Varagyam, detachment. Shamu Pashritaha, taking shelter of. Ahankaram, false ego. Balam, false strength. Darpam, false pride. So Darpa, that's that word about pride again. Kamam, lust. Krodam, anger. Parigraham, acceptance of material things. Vimuchya, being delivered. Nirmamaha, without proprietorship. Shanta, peaceful. Brahma Bhuyaya, to become self-realized. Kalpate, is understood. So text 51 to 53. Being purified by his intelligence and controlling the mind with determination. That's pretty amazing. Krishna consciousness. Being purified in his intelligence and controlling his mind. The intelligence is keeping his mind at bay with determination, giving up the objects of sense gratification, being freed from attachment and hatred, the two witches of learning, mukti bhukti. One who lives in a secluded place, who eats little, and who controls the body and the tongue and is always in trance, and is detached, who is without false ego, false strength, false pride, lust, anger, and who does not accept material things. Such a person is certainly elevated to the position of self-realization. Wow, that's a jam-packed verse. But anyway, that 51 through 53, chapter 18, it's a great reflect. Purport: when one becomes purified by knowledge, Krishna is knowledge. He's transcendental knowledge. He comes, Krishna's unconditional love and mercy for the living entities comes in the form of the spiritual master, who is Krishna's compassion. And the devotee of Krishna takes great austerities and sacrifices to not only chant Krishna's names with every molecule of his being, as Srila Prabhupada would say, but he also desires, he is so happy when another living entity comes to chanting, or if one of his disciples brings that living entity to Krishna. And so the spiritual master comes with the knowledge of self-realization from his received in disciplic lineage from his spiritual master, and the spiritual master, his spiritual master received it from his spiritual master, and so on, right back to Krishna. Non-different than Krishna is teaching here to Arjuna. And by understanding this knowledge and applying this knowledge in your life, one is purified in their heart of pride, lust, anger, envy, all these things that come from ahankara, a false ego, false condition of thinking you're the body and you are the controller. When one is purified by knowledge, he keeps himself in the mode of goodness. Such an amazing statement. I wish I could live up to that. When one is purified from knowledge, when one has received the spiritual knowledge, it's important that they take action with that knowledge and keep themselves in activities in the mode of goodness. Thus one becomes the controller of the mind, and not the mind being the controller of you, and is always in trance. Because he is not attached to the objects of sense gratification, he does not eat more than what he requires, and he controls the activities of his body and mind. He has no false ego, because he does not accept the body as himself, nor has he a desire to make the body fat and strong by accepting so many material things, because he has no bodily concept of life. He is not falsely proud. He is satisfied with everything that is offered to him by the grace of the Lord, and he is never angry in the absence of sense gratification. Nor does he endeavor to acquire sense objects. Thus, when he is completely free from false ego, he becomes non-attached to all material things, and that is the stage of self-realization in Brahman. That stage is called the Brahma Bhuta stage. So we've talked about this before. The renunciation of material sense enjoyment is only achieved by attaching one. It said that one cannot obtain Krishna or chant the names of Krishna without giving up attachment to material sense enjoyment, material fruit. But one can, by the grace of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, chant Krishna's names even in a polluted state of mind and be purified if they are sincere to follow the process and continue to follow the process. They may still have attachments, material sense enjoyment attachments, but those will fall away because the attachment to Krishna becomes stronger than the attachments to the material sense enjoyment. When they come to the state of having no material sense enjoyment, this is what is called nirvana. Nirvana means to blow out like a candle. So with the Buddhist concept, this is a similar concept because it's a Vedic concept. But the Buddha takes it to the point of being the ultimate goal, which it is kind of. It is a goal in the material world to achieve nirvana. But when one achieves nirvana, they have no more desire for material sense enjoyment or material enjoyment. And therefore they begin the Brahma Bhuta stage. Completely free from false ego, non-attached to material things, and they have reached Brahman, actually. They have reached that stage of understanding that they are Brahman. But there, the actual pure devotional service begins. So bhakti yoga in its truest sense. So we're really only practicing sadhana bhakti as instructed by our spiritual master because we have attachments for material sense enjoyment. But we're given a process that's so powerful that if we follow it consistently and sincerely, we will make spiritual progress and we will come to this point. When one is free from the material conception of life, he becomes peaceful and cannot be agitated. Right. Text 54. Brahma bhutaha splashanatma na shochati na kankshati samaha sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labate param. Brahma bhutaha, being one with the Absolute. So this is easily, Lord Buddha, who was actually Krishna, and there was a reason why Krishna appeared as Buddha, because Shiva, there was a process, and maybe one day I will read the quest by Tusta Krishna Das that explains the purposes of these, different people like Shankaracharya, who was actually Lord Shiva and instructed by Krishna to teach impersonalism. And Krishna appearing as Lord Buddha as an avatar to reinstate, to eliminate. There was that backwards. Actually, Shankaracharya came after Lord Buddha, but Lord Buddha came to throw out the Vedic system, but he borrowed major concepts, but he taught it in a different way that was impersonalism, really. That was nihilism. Brahma Bhuta. So being one with the absolute. So their idea is kind of like that, because impersonalist, all is nothing or all is everything, you know. Buddhism is all is nothing, and Shankaracharya monism is all is everything. You know, we are everything, and we are nothing. It's actually the same thing, really. It's annihilation. So this idea of being one with the absolute, in the Vaishnava understanding, the Vedic perspective is really being one with the absolute in will, just like we are in Bhakti Yoga, right? We are reached we are in the Brahma Bhuta stage. We are serving the Sri Krishna in our normal state, you know. We are one with will, just like Lord Jesus Christ. That is Brahma Bhuta, what he was saying. I and my Father are one. He's in the Brahma Bhuta stage. But it doesn't mean that he is Krishna, or it doesn't mean that he is God, or that God is him, or whatever it might be. But that there are two distinct entities in a loving relationship. They are one in will. Prashana Atma, fully joyful. Na never. Shochati, laments. Na never. Kankshati, desires. Samaha, equally disposed. Sarveshu, all. Bhuteshu, living entity. Mat bhaktim, my devotional service. Labate, gains. Param, transcendental. Translation, text 54. One who is thus transcendentally situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman. He never laments nor desires to have anything. He is equally disposed to every living entity. In that state, he attains pure devotional service unto me. Beautiful. Purport: to the impersonalist, achieving the Brahma Bhuta stage, becoming one with the Absolute, is the last word. Yeah. Once you've reached nirvana, that's it. You know. But for the personalist or pure devotee, one has to still go further to become engaged in pure devotional service. This means that one who is engaged in pure devotional service to the Supreme Lord is already in the state of liberation called Brahma Bhuta, oneness with the Absolute. Without being one with the Supreme, the Absolute, one cannot render service unto him. In the Absolute conception, there is no difference between the served and the servitor, yet in the distinction is there in a higher spiritual sense. In the material concept of life, when one works for sense gratification, there is misery. But in the absolute world, when one is engaged in pure devotional service, there is no misery. So we you know, as Bob Dylan famously coined, you've got to serve somebody. It's like, it might be the devil, it might be the Lord, but you got to serve somebody. You know, serve your landlord, people are serving left and right. I serve my cat. I gotta give him food, you know. He serves me by being affectionate. I don't know how the cats serve it. They may not serve anything. I don't know. That's the cat joke. If you have cats, then you probably... Anyway, yeah, but I have to serve my wife. I have to serve my children. My children serve me. My wife serves me. I have to serve my employer. The employer serves me by giving me money for my services. So there is an inbred aspect of service by the living entity. The living entity by its nature is the happiest when he serves. But that is a different kind of service too, also. But generally speaking, I should say, actually, the most services are done for some kind of, you know, fruitive result, and so there is misery in that. But the devotee in Krishna consciousness has nothing to lament or desire, since God is full. A living entity who is engaged in God's service in Krishna consciousness becomes full in himself. God is all. God is Krishna. God is the source of all things. It's not difficult for God to fulfill any kind of desire for the living entity, even the desire for love of him. So there's not really anything to lament. God is full. He is like a river cleaned of all dirty water. Yeah, see, there's that example, right? When the water in a river is pure by nature, but if it's polluted by our consciousness is being polluting our true state that we can't really see, then we don't see. But when it's cleaned, then it is pure, it's drinkable, it's accessible. We can swim in it without getting some weird tumor on our back of our head. Because a pure devotee has no thought other than Krishna. He is naturally always joyful. He does not lament for any material loss or gain because he is full in the service of the Lord. So Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada is making this point that Krishna was making to Arjuna, that in the service of Krishna, even if you're in the battlefield cutting people's heads off, and you're doing that as a service to me, there's nothing to worry about with, people that you know on both sides who might get killed. He does not lament for any material loss or gain because he is full in the service of the Lord. He has no desire for material enjoyment because he knows that every living entity is the fragmental part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, therefore eternally a servant. He does not see in the material world as sometimes someone is higher and someone is lower. Higher and lower positions are ephemeral. That means it's like an illusion, even though it's real. You've got your high-ups, billionaires or whatever, famous rock stars. They seem to be the higher-ups, and then you got the guy on the street who's lower down, or some dog that's just, or these feral cats that are all around Hawaii. They appear to be a difference high and low, but the person who's got all the money may next life be in the position of the cat, and the cat might be in the position of the human. So that's that illusion, the temporariness of this material world is a great illusion. And if you identify yourself with that, then there's a lot to lament about, because it's just fleeting. It's fleeting, and it goes away. And then you're kicked out of the body and you moved on to the next body. But if you understand who you are and what your relationship is with Krishna, then you don't come back to the material world. You are back in your status, or even if you come back to the material world, you're doing so as service to Krishna. Whatever I might do, if you send me to hell, you send me as a worm, let me please be in your service somehow, whether it's just being at your lotus feet or in the dust of your lotus feet, whatever I might do for you, my Lord. He does not, And a devotee has nothing to do with ephemeral. Let's get the right word. Come on. Ephemeral appearances or disappearances. For him, stone and gold are of equal value. This is the Brahma Bhuta stage. And this stage is attained very easily by the pure devotee. In that stage of existence, the idea of becoming one with the Supreme Brahman and annihilating one's individuality becomes hellish. And the idea of attaining the heavenly kingdom becomes phantasmagoria. And the senses are like broken serpent's teeth. So they're not interested in merging. They're not interested in going to heavenly planets. They're not interested in enjoying their senses. There is no fear of a serpent with broken teeth, right? Okay, so they're making the point that they're not affected by their senses. So there's no fear from the senses when they are automatically controlled. Yeah, when a cobra has these big fangs and they're just, they'll sink that teeth right in. But if the teeth are broken, the snake can bite you, but it's not going to do anything to you. The world is miserable for the materially infected person, but for a devotee, the entire world is as good as Vaikuntha, or the spiritual sky. The highest personality in this material universe is no more significant than an ant for a devotee. Such a stage can be achieved by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, who preached pure devotional service in this age. If you understand who you are, you know you're not the body. If you're in the material world, you think there are so many things I can do, so many people I can help in the service of my spiritual master in Krishna. You're not attached to, this material world that sucks and I want to get out of here and go to Krishna. It's like, no, I will serve Krishna wherever I might be, because I have the knowledge given to me by my spiritual master and I'm applying it. Text 55. Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavan yashchashmi tatvataha tato mam tatvato ganatva vishate tad anantaram bhaktya. By pure devotional service, me, abhijanati, one can know, yavan, as much as, yacha asimi, as I am, tatvata, in truth, tatva, thereafter, me, tatvataha, by truth, ganadva, knowing, vishate, enters, tat, thereafter, anantaram, after. Translation. One can understand the Supreme Personality as he is only by devotional service. Right there. And when one is in full consciousness of the Supreme Lord, by such devotion he can enter into the kingdom of God. Purport. And this is why Jesus Christ said, the kingdom of God is within. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, and his plenary portions cannot be understood by mental speculation nor by the non-devotees. If anyone wants to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he has to take to pure devotional service under the guidance of a pure devotee. Otherwise, the truth of the Supreme Personality of Godhead will always be hidden. It is already stated, Naham Prakashaha, that he is not revealed in everyone. Everyone cannot understand God simply by erudite scholarship or mental speculation. Only one who is actually engaged in Krishna consciousness and devotional service can understand what Krishna is. University degrees are not helpful because there's especially no university degrees in Krishna consciousness. See, they're good for, getting money and doing different things in the material world, but they don't really help. Sometimes they hinder. One who is fully conversant with the Krishna science becomes eligible to enter into the spiritual kingdom, the abode of Krishna. Becoming Brahman does not mean that one loses his identity. Devotional service is there. And as long as devotional service exists, there must be God. Yes, in order to have devotional service, you need somebody to give devotional service to, and that is Krishna. And you need the person to do the act of giving. So devotional service requires a relationship. So when you do service, you have two people or two entities that are interacting. You can't, just saying, well, I'm just going to pretend that I'm, doing service to God and I will get some kind of sentimentality and merge into the picture of Krishna, and I will be one and I will be all, and I will be Krishna, I will be my spiritual master, and then I can come down and have a bunch of people worshiping me, but they teach them how they can become me. They're over there going, well, what do you mean me? Actually, I am really God, and I will merge into you, and you will become me. It's people fighting. I am you, and you are me. Such knowledge is never vanquished, even after liberation. Liberation involves getting free from the concept of material life. In spiritual life, the same distinction is there. The same individuality is there. But in pure Krishna consciousness, one should not misunderstand that the word vishate, enters into me, supports the monist theory that one becomes homogeneous with the impersonal Brahman. So it was stated by, maybe it was Shankaracharya, I don't know, that the monist concept of merging into the Brahmajyoti. It was like the green bird merging into a green forest and becoming just part of the forest because they're green, right? But it was saying, Rupa Goswami made this argument that, well, the green bird is a living entity and the forest is but just because they're both green doesn't mean that they're the same people. They're just the same color, which makes some sense because the spiritual energy of those two things are the same, but they are not the same person. They're the same energy, but they're not the same person. So when the bird goes into the green forest, there's all kinds of things that are green, and there's multifarious different living entities within that forest. So that was an argument for individuality and Krishna and the spiritual world. So enters into me does not mean that he becomes one with Krishna. No Vishate means that one can enter into the abode of the Supreme Lord in his individuality to engage in his association and render service unto him. For instance, and of course Sam was saying this, and Bhaktivedanta is going to say it better, a green bird enters a green tree, not to become one with the tree, but to enjoy the fruits of the tree. Impersonalists generally give the example of a river flowing into the ocean and merging. This may be a source of happiness for the impersonalist, but the personalist keeps his personal individuality like an aquatic in the ocean. We find so many living entities within the ocean if we go deep. Surface acquaintance with the ocean is not sufficient. One must have complete knowledge of the aquatics living in the ocean's depths. Because of his pure devotional service, a devotee can understand the transcendental qualities and the opulence of the Supreme Lord in truth. As it is stated in the 11th chapter, only by devotional service can one understand. The same is confirmed here. One can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead by devotional service and enter into his kingdom. After attainment of the Brahma Bhuta stage of freedom from material conceptions, devotional service begins by one's hearing about the Lord. Yeah, you may come to chanting, but you hear about Krishna. You hear the chanting. You hear the spiritual master starting to teach about, and this is the first thing you do, is you hear. When one hears about the Supreme Lord, automatically the Brahma Bhuta stage develops and the material contamination, greediness, and lust for sense enjoyment disappears. As lust and desires disappear from the heart of the devotee, he becomes more attached to the service of the Lord, and by such attachment, he becomes free from the material contamination. In that state of life, he can understand the Supreme Lord. This is a statement of Srimad Bhagavatam also. Also, after liberation, the process of bhakti, of transcendental service, continues. The Vedanta Sutra confirms this. Aprayanat tatvapi hi drishtam. This means that after liberation, the process of devotional service continues. So we are continuously, eternally serving in the service of Krishna. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, real devotional liberation is defined as the reinstatement of the living entity in his own identity, his own constitutional position. The constitutional position is already explained. Every living entity is the part and parcel, fragmental portion of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, his constitutional position is to serve. After liberation, the service is never stopped. Actual liberation is getting free from the misconceptions of life. Wonderful. Text 56. Sarva karmani api sada kurvano mad vyapashraya mad prasadat avapnoti shashvatam padam avyayam. Sarva, all, karmani, activities, api, although, sada, always, kurvanaha, performing, mat, under my, vyapashraya, protection. Mat, my, prashadat, mercy, avapnoti, achieves, sashvatam, eternal, padam, abode, avayam, yayam, imperishable. Though engaged, it's text 56, though engaged in all kinds of activities, my devotee, under my protection, reaches the eternal and imperishable abode by my grace. Excuse me. The word madhyapasharaya means under the protection of the Supreme Lord, to be free from material contamination. A pure devotee acts under the direction of the Supreme Lord or his representative, the spiritual master. There is no time limitation for a pure devotee. He is always 24 hours, 100% engaged in activities under the direction of the Supreme Lord. To a devotee who is thus engaged in Krishna consciousness, the Lord is very, very kind. In spite of all difficulties, he is eventually placed in the transcendental abode or Krishna Loka. He is guaranteed entrance there. There is no doubt about it. In that supreme abode, there is no change. Everything is eternal, imperishable, and full of knowledge. Wonderful. Text 57. Chetasha sarva kamani, mai shanyasha mat paraha, buddhi yogam uprashrita, machitaha satatat bhava. Chetasha by intelligence, sarva karmani, all kinds of activities. Mai, unto me, sanyasha, giving up. Matparaha, my protection. Buddhi yogam, devotional activities. Upashritya, taking shelter of. Machitaha, consciousness. Satyatam, 24 hours a day. Bhava, just become. Translation, text 57. In all activities, just depend upon me and work always under my protection. So Krishna is telling Arjuna, in all activities that you do, just depend upon me and work under my protection. Under my protection. So, whereas opposed you would not be under the protection of Krishna, even though you would be serving Krishna's energy in the external energy. In such devotional service, be fully conscious of me. Beautiful. When one acts in Krishna consciousness, he does not act as the master of the world. I'm going to read that again. When one acts in Krishna consciousness, he does not act as the master of the world. It's beautiful. It's such a powerful statement. You should put it on your wall. Remind you. Just like a servant, one should act fully under the direction of the Supreme Lord. A servant has no individual independence. He acts only on the order of the master. A servant acting on behalf of the Supreme Master has no affection for profit and loss. He simply discharges his duty faithfully in terms of the order of the Lord. Now, one may argue that Arjuna was acting under the personal direction of Krishna, but when Krishna is not present, how should one act? If one acts according to the direction of Krishna in this book, as well as under the guidance of the representative of Krishna, then the results will be the same. The Sanskrit word matparaha is very important in this verse. It indicates that one has no goal in life save and except acting in Krishna consciousness just to satisfy Krishna. And while working in that way, one should think of Krishna only. I have been appointed to discharge this particular duty by Krishna. While acting in such a way, one naturally has to think of Krishna. This is perfect Krishna consciousness. One should, however, note that after doing something whimsically, he should not offer the result to the Supreme Lord. That sort of duty is not in the devotional service of Krishna consciousness. One should act according to the order of Krishna. This is a very important point. That order of Krishna comes through disciplic succession from the bona fide spiritual master. Therefore, the spiritual master's order should be taken as the prime duty of life. If one gets a bona fide spiritual master and acts according to his direction, then his perfection of life in Krishna consciousness is guaranteed. Text 58. Machitaha sarva dugani mat prashada tarisyashi yata chet tvam hankaran nashrosyashi vihan kankshashi. Mad, my, chitaha, consciousness, sarva, all. Durgani, impediments, mat, my, prashadat, my mercy, tarisyashi, you will overcome, atta, therefore, chet, if, tvam, you, ahankarat, by false ego, na, not, shrosyashi, do not hear, vinakanasyashi, vinankasyashi, then lose yourself. Translation, text 58. If you become conscious of me, you will pass over all the obstacles of conditional life by my grace. If, however, you do not work in such consciousness, but act through false ego, not hearing me, you will be lost. A person in full Krishna consciousness is not unduly anxious to execute the duties of his existence. The foolish cannot understand this great freedom from all anxiety. For one who acts in Krishna consciousness, Lord Krishna becomes the most intimate friend. He always looks after his friend's comfort and gives himself to his friend, who is so devotedly engaged, working 24 hours a day to please the Lord. Therefore, no one should be carried away by the false ego of the bodily concept of life. One should not falsely think himself independent of the laws of material nature or free to act. He is already under strict material laws, but as soon as he acts in Krishna consciousness, he is liberated, free from the material perplexities. One should note very carefully that one who is not active in Krishna consciousness is losing himself in the material whirlpool, in the ocean of birth and death. No conditioned soul actually knows what is to be done and what is not to be done. But a person who acts in Krishna consciousness is free to act because everything is prompted by Krishna from within and confirmed by the spiritual master. Let me read that again. No conditioned soul actually knows what is to be done and what is not to be done. We remember that from before where we were reading about the person in ignorance. But a person who acts in Krishna consciousness is free to act because everything is prompted by Krishna from within and confirmed by the spiritual master. That's why it's so key and so important to actually have a spiritual master and not try to play spiritual master like so many people try to do. They want to be your guru, you know. Jesus says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. And you ask, who is their spiritual master? Yeah, Lord Jesus Christ. Well, Lord Jesus Christ is your Lord in your heart. He's not on the planet anymore. He's not a living spiritual master. So, and I think we'll stop off there at text 59 and pick up next time. Thank you so much. Namaste.